Hi, everyone. Welcome to another Career Chat. For those who are new, here is a career accelerator for the future workforce, built around the idea of caring for a whole person, not just the career piece. So that includes mental health and the financial piece as well. With that being said, today we are joined by Lilian Calvan, a bicultural, bilingual therapist and clinical director of Mindful Practice Incorporation, where she works with families, athletes, and leaders on mindfulness and resilience. She's also the author of Prevail, a roadmap to navigate the school systems for a hopeful future. Inspired by her own journey as a first generation Latina student. And for this Cured Chat, we'll be discussing the current employment climate and its impact on our mental health, alongside with practical tools for managing work-related stress and staying grounded in the workplace. Lilian, thank you so much for being here, and let's get right into it. My first question to you is, a lot of us are graduating right now, and we feel like we're stepping into a job market that's more uncertain than ever. What would you say to someone feeling like that right now?
Yes, so I would validate that their feelings are correct. There seem like there are a lot of people currently right now that are worried about the job market, it being uncertain. People are stressed. So I would make sure to validate their experience and their feelings. Also, let them know that there are a lot of things that we don't have control of. Like we don't have control of the economy, we don't have control of the job market, we don't have control of what's happening out in the world. And then would encourage people to stay within the bounds or the limits of what we do have control. So we can have control of having more positive or healthier mindset, perhaps how we approach when we're navigating uncertainty, and that could be very helpful. I would also add to perhaps take the opportunity to network and build relationships with mentors and those people that could be able to support us, especially during these times. And then another opportunity, this could be the time to be proactive and take certifications or trainings in your current field or even in a new field of interest, and then that could add to your resume during this time.
Yeah, thanks so much. I like how you talked about focusing on things that you can control. We can't control the economy. We can't control many different things, and just focus on things that we can control. My second question to you is, how long does this uncertainty normally last, right? Does the job market ever stabilize?
Yeah, so unfortunately, I don't know how long this will last, but it does remind me of COVID. It reminds me of how we were all in it together, and we didn't know how we were gonna get through the pandemic. But what we did learn is we learned to adjust, we adapted, and then we were able to manage it. So this kind of reminds me that it will pass, things will change, and hopefully we will also evolve and be ready and be prepared for the next big thing for us.
And I love what you said about this is like COVID. It's so interesting because I remember at that time it felt like the job market was being disrupted in
Yeah.
so many different ways. There was a lot of uncertainty, but different kind of uncertainty. What are you seeing between what those challenges were at that time from a mental health perspective versus now? Because it seems like the uncertainty is more around AI, a lot of layoffs, things taking longer. There's a lot more people competing for the same roles. What are you noticing as far as similarities and differences, and also how people are dealing with that?
It feels from a therapist perspective very similar. So people are afraid. There's this fear, there's this worry, there's this increased levels of stress because they don't know, right, of the unknown. The only difference is that COVID was more of a health related fear, and I mean the fear of death, right? People were dying, and so that was a little different. And this is more about our job security, financial security, and the future doesn't feel so secure in this aspect. Yeah.
Mm, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
You talked some about you talked about some of the key differences between COVID and this time, and how this is like more of a financial stress almost.
Mm-hmm.
Can you talk a little bit about maybe why is this important to talk about with others? Should we be talking about this with mentors or a therapist or a friend or family members?
Yeah, I'm of course biased because I'm a therapist, but I mean we can do the research, but there is power in being able to name it. So when we are able to name what's happening, when we are able to name what's causing us stress, the work related like dynamic in the work environment, we can tame it. So I like this quote. I didn't make it up, but it's like if we name it, we can tame it. Right. And so if we are able to name it, we can tame the impact that it has on us. And it also kind of puts us at an advantage and we can get ahead of it instead of it controlling us and then our experience of it.
Can I ask a follow-up question on the naming? As you say that, I'm reminded of it just sounds like so many different things, right? And
Yeah.
some days it feels like fear or this uneasiness. Some days it can feel like, I don't know, it's confusion,
Mm-hmm.
overwhelm. And I love what you say about naming it. Part of me also feels like, how do we decide? Or it can be lots of names. How do you navigate when there are many names, right? And and also the day-to-day fluctuations. Where do you begin with that?
Like how do you begin to be able to name it?
Right.
Ah, I would break it down in the most smallest steps. So being able to name our thoughts. I mean, sometimes we're always thinking, right? That's just the way the mind works, but we don't necessarily name the themes, the topics, or what we're thinking about. So that could be helpful. Naming our emotions. Our emotions can feel so overwhelming or elusive because we can't touch them. But when we name them, then they lose their power. They lose the power over us, and again, we can kind of get a hold of them and manage them. And so that's usually how I work with folks when we are able to talk and talk therapy about being able to name what's happening.
And as a function of that, it sounds like it's okay that it's different things or different days and different, so it sounds like, and we'll probably get into this in a little bit, there's different ways to tame that then, right?
Yes,
So, well, I just want to put a pin in that for later because
yes.
in a time of confusion and so much uncertainty and the fluctuating emotions and feelings about it, how do we also navigate what we do about it too?
Yes, you mentioned something interesting that came up for me is like when we name our thoughts, when we have too many like active mind, right? I'm sure you guys have heard these statements, but we we kind of are able to tame that the monkey mind or we lasso the wild horse. I mean, so there are different ways, different terms that could work for people in terms of how do we able to manage what we're experiencing internally, so again, so that we can get ahead of it and then we're able to work through it.
Thank you.
Hmm.
I have a super curious. I have a question on naming it. Is there a difference between naming it out loud and then just naming it in your head? And is there a difference between naming it with someone else and just naming it by yourself?
Yes. I will again encourage to be able to express it, let it out. So if we name it like mentally and in silence to ourselves, sometimes it's the same effect as if we hold everything in and we suppress and we tend to circulate and cycle through those thoughts. And there is, when we can transfer what we're thinking about or what we're feeling externally, so either in talk therapy with a therapist, it could be with a trusted friend. I encourage people to journal, write, and write it out. We're getting it out of our system. Again, so we kind of make it as something that's external from what we are experiencing internally. And it's easier to be able to say, aha, that's what I'm working with, and that's what, when we have a lot of information, then we can kind of decide, okay, this is what I can work, this is what I can rearrange, this is what I can organize, this is going to help me again to get a hold of it.
I have another follow-up question is, are there some physical clues in our bodies that tell us that we're stressed before we even realize it, before we even name it?
Yes, although I do want to say that we all have a different tolerance for stress. I will talk about mindfulness today too, and that can help us have a little bit more awareness of when we are experiencing stress and the signals that our body is giving us, right? What I have found helpful is to be able to rate the stress levels. So I usually ask people, let's put a number on it. Let's rate it from 1 to 10, 1 being the lowest, 10 being the highest. And then we can break it down between low, moderate, and high, right? So when you rate low is between 1 and 3, moderate's between 4 and 6, high is between 7 and 8. That's usually, right, when the alarms should be going off, when the lights should be flashing red. And that kind of gives us a spectrum to see, okay, what are we experiencing? Where are we on the spectrum? And what number are our stress levels? Um, at the beginning, I want to say people would start experiencing physical discomfort, maybe hot, like a temperature change in their bodies. Some people experience headaches as we go higher up in the levels of stress. The headaches can turn into migraines. We start feeling overwhelmed. Some people get into freeze mode and they have a full panic or anxiety attack, nausea in their bellies. So there's a lot going on in our bodies. And so sometimes paying attention and really listening to the wisdom of our bodies could be very helpful.
I love how you said paying attention and listening to the wisdom of your bodies. As a therapist, what's the signal or the stress signal that people tend to miss the most or brush off the most?
I mean, let me explain. Well, there are different responses to stress. So the main ones that you probably have heard are the fight, flight, or freeze. So the fight stress response, usually people tend to externalize, and that may look like people getting angry, or maybe it can people getting loud or aggressive. Some people respond through flight, which is the opposite. We internalize. People tend to avoid, run away, flee, like get me out of this situation. And then the freeze mode usually looks like stiffness. Maybe people start feeling numb or tingling sensation. They stop breathing. So we can all like have this either tend to go towards one response, but we can also experience all three. I want to say my experience has been that people are powering through and they're on autopilot. And so they're paying attention to what the demands of work are or what's being, expected of them. So they're not paying attention to their body. They're not paying attention to the stress signals. They're not paying attention to the fact that their body is screaming like I need a break or I need to pause or I take care of me. And sometimes we don't have the time really to stop doing what we're doing to take care of ourselves. So I want to be very real about that.
That's a really good point. As you say that, what came up for me was, even in the workplace, there's so much fear sometimes when we're thinking, oh gosh, there's layoffs, or I don't want to stand out too much, or complain, or push back on, especially if parts of your team have been impacted, right? And now maybe you're taking more on. And so what comes up for me is, my goodness, there's so much internalization that probably happens or that
Yes.
freeze. Um, and also out of fear, maybe you're not even reacting or responding in the way you normally would when there is safety or that lack of pressure. And so, what are some things that we can think about in the workplace when we're still trying to maintain this, I got it, kind of persona
Yeah.
and manage the work? But also there's that, how do I even begin to take care of myself? I'm also afraid of speaking up or showing vulnerability.
Yeah.
I feel like there's this battle.
Yeah. Yeah. And thank you for saying that, Sylvia, because there are a lot of people that are currently experiencing that.
Mhm.
And it is kind of sad because they're going home with all these levels of stress, and it's activating their nervous system. So it's activating the sympathetic nervous system. And sometimes that can also affect how we feel. So our mood, it could have, and if our mood is impacted, sometimes it can affect how we're relating to other people, either our coworkers in the workplace or at home. And so some of the clients that I work with, or the work that I encourage them to do, is to come up with a mindfulness or a mental health playbook. And I think it's helpful, and it has been helpful with some of the clients that I work with, but it's just basic stuff. I would encourage them to wake up at least 10 minutes earlier on the day. Even if you roll out of bed, you don't have to get ready, just roll out of bed and start moving your body. So, stretching, doing a gentle yoga, or a meditation, although that is a formal practice of mindfulness. Just sitting in silence, closing your eyes, that helps set the tone for the day. Then I tell people, okay, so we need to take care of our basic needs. So we're in a world of technology. So if you need to remind yourself, set an alarm, I need to drink my water, I need to hydrate, I need to eat, I need to have my snacks, I need to eat my food, and then set another alarm to make sure people take their breaks. Like, I'm shocked how some people do not take their breaks in the morning or in the afternoon, and then they skip through their lunch. And they're having lunch at 3 or 4 in the afternoon, although I am guilty of that. But don't do that. Like, be strategic, right, in terms of this playbook. Like, I got to take my breaks and I got to take my lunch. And I would also encourage to eat your lunch outside or in a different setting than where you work, because our brain is a big association a machine. It associates things. So if you're eating at your desk where you work, then your brain is still, I'm still working, right?
Mm.
So go to a different environment, go get some sunshine, go get some fresh air, go take a quick power nap if you're safe and if it's like not too hot. And then I would conclude the day with the ritual. Let's talk, let's transition, like make sure we send the message to our brain, we're now ending the day. Let's wash our hands, transition home. When our commute, maybe listen to a podcast like this one, or a guided meditation, or maybe come up with your favorite playlist during that time that takes you to go home. But then you're transitioning, you're now getting into play mode. I'm ready to play, I'm ready to rest, I'm ready to relax. If that's not enough, then I ask people, okay, so like what else can we add? So maybe an evening walk at the end of the day with your family or with a friend or whoever's your support team. And if you're still stressed, right? Because sometimes if we look at how we rate our stress, and if we're at a high, we need to do more self-care or more mindfulness tools to be able to regulate our nervous system and get back to that state where we feel calm and safe. So if we're still wound up after dinner, then okay, then let's really talk about, like, let's do the journaling. If people don't like to write down, I have them record themselves on their phone. Just get it out. We want to express it. We want to get it out. We don't want to hold it in. And then delete. I mean, if you want to hear yourself, that's great, but it's usually not that fun. But delete, or read a book, or honestly, watch TV, your favorite show, your favorite movie that makes you feel so good and comfortable, and you don't have to think too much. All
Mm.
of that serves as a distraction of ruminating on what's causing us stress and activating our nervous system.
I love that. I love that you gave us kind of a rating system and also kind of a plan. And I know while not perfect, it there creates some intentionality. It reminds me of working out a little bit, right? You set the time like I'm gonna work out. I may not feel like it, but I'm just gonna put my shoes on and get outside and let's see what happens and where I go, right? And so it kind of
Yes.
reminds me of a little bit of, where can you start and maybe not bite too much than you can, take on, but at least get those motions in place, meaning walk away from your desk, your home office. And I love that. There's some structure around that. That's really cool. Okay. Yeah. And then something that came up for me as you said that too, is saving some of your favorite things for when you do the walk or when you are driving home, favorite podcasts and music or things you're looking forward to. But that's really helpful. Thank you for that. That's great
Mhm.
structure.
¿Qué
Yeah, I want
más?
to
¿Qué
go.
más?
I, I want to go back to when we're on the job. Maybe we don't have time, and my question is, let's say we don't have time to fully process something in the moment. What's something quick that someone can do right then and there at their desk to regulate before it builds up? Um, yeah.
Okay, yeah. So kind of like the what can we do when we're in the workplace
Mhm.
and our desk when we start noticing the cues of stress.
Yeah.
So I'm going to talk about mindfulness, and so mindfulness is a fancy word of how do we bring our mind being in full attention of what's going on and how that can increase our awareness, right? And so I'm going to mention 3 to 4 mindfulness techniques that are accessible. And the first one is our breath. I mean, we're breathing right now, right? We need to breathe to be alive. But what I want to emphasize is that we want to breathe intentionally. We want to slow the breath down. And then we want to pause. So intentional, slower pace, and then we want to pause. So if you think of a complete breath as you inhale, you pause, you exhale, and then you pause. So that's called box breathing. You inhale, usually people inhale with the count to 3 or 4, then they hold their breath at the count of 3 or 4, then they exhale and they count again to 3 to 4, and then they pause. That's box breathing. Um, Another one of my favorite is thoracic breathing, and that's breathing through your chest. So I have people put their hands on their chest and really feel the gentle rise and fall as they're breathing through their chest area. Maybe they can feel their heart rate, and it also serves as a way to feel grounded, right? So we don't get so lost in the worries and the fears because that's all mental and that's taking us away from being with our bodies. Another one is I'll have people place their hands or a pillow on their belly and breathe diaphragmatically. So that's a little bit of deeper breathing. This is the type of breathing that the athletes do. And how that's helpful, it's because we're able to get more breath into our muscles and our bodies, particularly when we're performing. But if you think about it, a lot of us are in survival mode and we are performing in our workplace. So we all need to do all these breathing exercises so that we can make sure we get enough breath and oxygen in our bodies and our brains. The other one is mindful movement. So my favorite one is one step and one breath. So you take one step while you take one whole complete breath. And I would encourage you guys to try this. It's interesting because you're slowing down completely. So take a whole minute to walk forward, take a whole minute to walk backward while you're taking only one step and one breath. Maybe do 3 to 5 minutes, and you're connecting the mind and the body as you're slowing the breath down, sending a signal to your brain that you're safe. We're good. So that's deep breathing, mindful movement. Another one could be taking a quick power nap during your lunch break. 15 to 20 minutes is what's recommended, not more than that, because then it could impact our REM sleep, and then we have to go back to work. What else? Sitting in silence. It's not like a formal practice of meditation, but just sitting, closing your eyes. So giving your brain a break from receiving all this external information. When you close your eyes, you also give your brain a break from receiving the stimuli. So just closing your eyes, resting 5 minutes. You don't need to listen to anything, but you are giving yourself a break.
I love that. Permission for power naps. It's taken me my whole life to be okay with
Yes.
taking a power
Me
nap.
too.
It is
It's
life
definitely a
changing.
training.
Self permission for everyone here. If anyone else experiences that, my goodness,
Oh my
big
God.
fan.
I dealt with a lot of guilt when I
Same.
was learning how to allow myself to rest and take care of myself. The guilt would get in the way, and then I would feel like, oh my gosh, estás floja, you know? But no, the reality is like, no, I need to shift my mindset. I need to take care of myself, and I need to prioritize myself so that I can reset and recharge.
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel like there's sometimes I even have superpowers once I just take the 20, 25 minutes.
Yes,
Oh, life
yes.
changing.
I,
Thank
I
you. Great,
agree.
great
Yeah.
ones.
And you mentioned that you work with athletes, and I'm super
Mhm.
curious about your experience and on just helping athletes. Like, can you just talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so I am an athlete myself, although I competed over 20 years ago, but I still consider once an athlete, always an athlete, and we're all athletes right now. We're all athletes in this sport called life. But with regards to, the World Cup just ended. So I want you to just take a brief minute to think of your favorite athlete in the soccer world or football, right, when they're trying to compete for the Super Bowl or the Olympics, right? These athletes are trained, usually in mindfulness or some sort of mental training, to be able to focus on what's in front of them and what's um, at their reach. And when I refer to staying in the pocket, is they're not focused on their worries or their fears or their insecurity, right? They're able to work through that and shift and being mindful about trusting themselves, being confident that they already know what they need to know. If they're Olympics athletes, like they know they're good, right? They're either born with talent or they've already refined their skills. So they just go in it with, I got this, and then let me just have fun and let me enjoy this. And then while I'm enjoying it and having fun, it naturally takes them to this state of flow. Right, that's kind of being in the pocket where everything else becomes background noise or background whispers, as I call it. It's like it's little whispers. It never really goes away sometimes, but we're not paying attention to that. We're really paying attention to being in that pocket. And that may lead to improved performance or reaching their goals or winning. But their main, when they're in that pocket, they're not really focused about winning. They're just really focusing on their experience of having fun.
Super almost off topic question, but I'm super curious is like, is there a difference between confident and then faking it till you make it while being in that flow?
Yeah, well, okay. I think faking it till you make it can work for you as you're working through it.
Hmm.
Right? You got to work through. I think all of us at one point can challenge ourselves to make it, like to go to another level,
Hmm.
whether it's in an athletic or in work. And yeah, so naturally we have these feelings of self-doubt or insecurity, right? So we kind of feel like we're faking it until we actually feel confident in what we're doing. So if we're working through that during practice, like practice, we're supposed to practice every day. And then I think naturally, once we shift into trusting ourselves, right? Trusting the fact that I got this, I know this already. I'm going to talk about mindfulness today, right? There's natural little bit of nervios. It's like, but I already know this. I do this all the time. I love it. It's going to be okay. And I think so then that you're shifting with you got it and you're almost being your own champion or your own cheerleader, and then you kind of step into that space, and the goal will be to stay, right? So naturally, like our mind is very active, and it's beautiful. It's what it does. Sometimes it wants to pull you away to the worries, like, oh my god, like what if I mess up, or qué tal si se me olvidan las cosas.
Hmm.
That's where we take a deep breath, we slow things down, and then we can shift and pivot and then kind of return and go back. All right, I got this. I'm good. So we do a little bit of both, right? I think it's a kind of like the yin and the yang, and I think they're both kind of help each other out. We need to feel a little bit of that to keep us on our toes to get into this confidence.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, it's
That's really cool. I'm hearing even some resilience in that, right? When you said I got this, I was imagining what we could channel or what we could, use to help us stay in the pocket, get in that mode. And so I love that you said we're all athletes. So thank you for that.
Yeah.
We'll take it. But also, in this kind of game of life, what can we use and remind ourselves that, oh, we do got this, or I only need to do the next step, or I only need to
Yeah.
get the ball in my hands and get in that
Mhm.
position to go, or those kinds of things. What are some additional reminders to help us kind of get in that flow mode? What
Yeah.
else? What else can we use?
Well, what I'm thinking is for interviews. So if we're about to prepare for an interview, naturally, I think feeling anxious and nervous is a natural element that happens, but that can get the best of us, right? So if we aren't able to tame that, sometimes that gets in the way of us being able to present ourselves fully and our greatest like skills and talents. So I would recommend doing the breathing exercises, so regulating the breath, regulating that helps regulate the nervous system. That sends a message to our brain, hey, we're safe, we're fine. There's no need to worry. For me personally, doing a formal, like guided meditation, 5 to 10 minutes, helps me set the tone. It almost helps me clear my mental queue. Right? If you think of all the tabs in our computer, we close the tabs so that our battery isn't like going working overload. The same thing for me. So if I have all this busy thoughts of what could happen, being in those 5 to 10 minutes helps me organize my thoughts, helps me organize my feelings. It's almost like organizing a room. I feel a little bit better stepping into that versus like it's all chaotic and disorganized. It also helps prepare, like just feel prepared, and preparation and practice does really help us, can go a long way, particularly with interviews. I have a funny story because if it's okay to share.
Yes, please do.
There is, I think like a few years ago, my family and I think it was during COVID, we had this bet for people to apply. I was trying to help two family members to get a job. So everybody's applying, and the goal was whoever actually gets the job gets $1,000. But of course, I was going to do it too. So I applied. I wasn't looking for a job, but I applied. I ended up being called for an interview, but because I wasn't looking for a job and I didn't want it, I wasn't nervous at all. And I just took it as this is practice for me. Let me just practice to see where I'm at. Let's get a feel of what's out there in the world in my field. And I got the job. And I got the $1,000.
Wow.
Yeah, and it was a wonderful experience because that's the first time in my life that I didn't feel any nerves or any because yeah, I mean the mind, I mean it really does kind of can sometimes get in the way of our presentation.
That's really cool. Again, the reminds me of having more fun. What would happen if we were more intentional about, looking at this as let's have more fun? What would happen? What would be possible? If we could just have more fun with whatever the thing is,
Yeah.
even for a
Yeah.
moment. And so that's a great reminder. Thanks for sharing that.
hmm And in the workplace, so thinking of how can we apply staying in the pocket for athletes, the best way that I can describe it is how can we find our joy?
Mhm.
So I usually encourage folks to identify what is your why? Why do you go to work? Like, why is your job important to you? Can you experience joy while you're at work? What is your passion and your purpose? And honestly, some people don't really love their job, but they need a paycheck. And I mean, athletes do too. I can't even imagine being an athlete. I think I would just, it's too much, right? It's a lot of pressure. But they're working too. It's not easy. So being able to see, well, if you don't really love your work, then what is it about that paycheck or having that job that allows you to do the things that you love with your family? And then can we access joy and can we be go to work with a little pep in our step, a little shimmy like Juan Gabriel or something. I mean, why
Good
not?
shimmy. I like that shimmy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really appreciate that. The job itself, but also the people around you, or
hmm
something about the job. For me, I used to get some really yummy lunches, and so sometimes even just
Yeah.
looking forward to that and sitting with someone new, or so I love that. Great reminder, and it could be little things
Yeah.
or big things.
Or our coworkers, our
Yeah,
friends that we make at work too. Sometimes we can enjoy a good belly laugh when we're with them and we forget about our worries. That's worth it sometimes.
that's right. Thank you for
Yeah.
the reminders.
Yeah, Lilian, thank you so much for just talking about how maybe if you don't like what you're doing, you could shift that joy into, oh, what are some of the experiences that you could get from your paycheck? Or have a good belly laugh with your coworkers. I really love that mindset switch. Um, a question for you that I have now is you talked about staying in the flow for athletes, or staying in the pocket for athletes, and then staying in the pocket at the workforce. Is it sustainable to be in the pocket all day, or is that recommended, or is that not really recommended?
No, yeah, I don't. I mean, it's I think organically we access flow and it's not long lasting,
Mm.
right? It depends on the sport, on the athlete, so it is different for everyone. But some of the work that I've read, there's this book called Burnout: The Secret of Ending the Stress Cycle by Dr. Emily and Amelia Nagoski. So there are two sisters who they studied stress. And what I really loved and took from this book is they were able to emphasize that stress has a cycle, and that there's a beginning, there's a middle, and there's an end. And what I really love about that, again, it kind of goes along with being able to name it and tame it. So now we can get a hold of it, right? That shifts for me my mindset. That stress is just it is inevitable, right? But then like it felt for before that stress felt like it was just this never ending elusive thing that would just go on and on and on. But I love what they point out because then, yeah, we look at so every day we have to end that stress cycle. So we rate it, right? Then we look at okay, every day, like what number am I today? The beginning obviously happens at some point throughout our day. The middle is the peak, and at the end it's up to us to be intentional. Well, what am I going to do about it to end this stress cycle today? What am I going to do to be able to regulate my nervous system and activate my parasympathetic system, which is the rest and digest, right? So, and I take it one day at a time. And with the folks that I work with, we are more strategic about what does your work week look like? Do you work 10 hours, 4 days a week, or do you work the regular 9 to 5, right? And we want to look at what is your heaviest workload day, what's your easiest, and then what are you going to do on those days that you really have to be proactive and do something to end it? The higher our cycle, the stress level is, the more we have to do to end it. Because I've tried it. I've been super stressed. There was a time where I was working two jobs and I had a 2 year old. A 5 minute guided meditation was not doing it for me. That's the truth. So again, we kind of figure out, well, what am I going to do? So that was helpful for me, Adrian, to be able to look at it that way, either one day at a time or one week at a time, and being strategic about it. And then also knowing what my options were. And I added a worksheet today that has a little bit of different options. So I would encourage people to diversify their options, try different things that helps them end that stress cycle, so that they can sleep. Right. So when we're stressed, we can't sleep, so that they can rest their nervous system, and then so that they can reset, recharge, and then we can be ready and be in an optimal state of performance and learning the next day and get ready to deal whatever we have to deal with the next day.
Thank you, Lilian. Thank you. Right now we're at that a little bit over the halfway mark, so I kind of want to open it up for any participants in the chat or in this Zoom call to ask any questions that they like to Lilian.
While
And I have,
questions come through, I do have a question. How is there a different way to think about? I think about our audience and who usually joins these chats and watches our videos. And it's students that are going to be graduating in the next couple of years, through early career professionals, and all the way through, because a lot of these tips and a lot of our topics really resonate with a wide audience. Are there different ways to approach this? If I want to put our early kind of I'm a student, will be graduating soon, hat on, and with all the uncertainty about the job market, just even graduating and then what's next, what advice do you have? How can they help themselves?
how can they help themselves with like being recent graduates and not
Yeah,
knowing what
there's
the job
there's so
market
much
can
coming
be?
up for them, right? There's all the
Yeah.
uncertainty. the job market, we talked about the job market and the current workforce, but trying not to get too
Yeah.
ahead, right? I'm
Yeah.
still in school and maybe I graduate in a year or so. What advice do you have
Yeah.
for not getting too far ahead?
Yeah. I mean, again, I think naming it and getting ahead of it could be helpful. Being able to manage whatever stress, anxiety, or nervios that they're getting from it, because that doesn't help us at all. Like again, stress is inevitable. The analogy that I give is when you're stressed and worried, you're on a rocking chair, you're moving, but you're not getting anywhere, right? So there's really no what purpose does this serve to stress and worry? And it's okay to experience that, like, okay, yes, I'm worried, I'm stressed, but then I don't have to live there. So what can I do to manage that, get ahead of that, so that I can shift and pivot and focus on something else that would be more helpful for me at this time, right? So whether it's accessing, well, what goals do I want to work on? Do I can I add something to my resume during this time? Who can I network with? Who can I connect with that can perhaps give me some pointers that could be helpful during this time?
Yeah, what I'm hearing is action, taking some action. You said earlier, networking or getting certification,
Yeah,
those kinds of things can also serve as, you said, a distraction earlier, but
yeah,
also just doing something versus sitting back and worrying,
yeah,
getting more stressed out.
yeah. Because if you think about if we don't, I mean, I don't know if you guys have experiences, and I'm opening it to the group, but stress when could be it can get heavy, right? The more we don't manage it, it can become chronic stress, and then it can impact our sleep. It could impact our mood. It can impact how we interact with other people. It has all these things that it can impact us on a negative way, and and it can affect our performance. So either in the school at school, or it could be in the workplace. Or for me, like what's coming up when you mentioned that, Sylvia, like I remember I had a lot of test anxiety when I had to take my 4 hour exam to be a therapist. I have to sit there for 4 hours and remember everything that I know. And these are standardized tests. Spanish is my second language, so I was very nervous. Like, am I gonna understand it? Am I gonna get it? Am I gonna fail? So I chose, and I was very intentional. I need to manage my stress. I need to get a hold of like my anxiety and not let it go up the roof while I'm getting ready to take this test. And I did exactly everything that I just shared today. I ate my banana for my snack. I took my breaks. I went to use a restroom, and when I noticed the stress peaking, no, yo me salí, and I was like, let me go take a breather, and let me go back. And then I was able to shift and pivot. I'm gonna focus back. I already know this. I got this. I ended up getting a really high score. And so I was really proud of that. So I really do believe in this stuff. I believe it works, and I just love teaching people how can they apply it in practical ways, because we all learn differently, right? There's no cookie cutter. So again, it's like finding what works for each person.
Hi, Christina. Thanks for joining. Do you have a question?
Oh no, I wanted to show my face during the conversation part. I I think it's so true. Like laughter, getting good sleep, getting good exercise are all great ways to dissipate stress and try to be able to put the frame, like Lillian said, around what's in your control, what's out of your control, and then dissipate. Sleep and exercise and laughter. Those are all really important when you're on the job market. Yeah.
I love the way you position that, Christina. When you said frame, I pictured a box, right? What sides do you need? What are your kind of non-negotiables, right? And so if
Mhm.
it's sleep, if it's, making sure you at least eat a couple good meals a day, if it's walking outside for 10 minutes, whatever, what is that frame that matters? And then the in between, you can add other things to your box, and it's different for
Yeah.
everyone. And so
Yeah.
what a great reminder.
Yeah.
Thank
I
you.
like that too. And I would add, just like an athlete has a little gym bag, or for me, I have my little makeup bag.
Mhm.
I have my lipstick, I have my little mascara. I love to encourage folks to have a mental health tool bag, their
Yeah,
go-to coping skills that help them get where they want to be. Uh,
right.
Not too many. And we don't need
Yeah,
to add or complicate our life. Life is already complicated.
yeah,
Go with what you love, with what feels good and what gets you there, that state of like safety, feeling calm, or working through that stress. So
that's right.
3 to 5 is good enough. And just go and master that and go to that. Particularly when we're stressed, like we don't have time to be thinking about what am I going to do now? I
Yeah.
already know. We're ready. We're prepared because I already have my little tool bag.
And it helps to really scale them too for the amount of time or money that you have to invest in those kinds of care
Yeah.
rituals. So, like you said, it could be everything from eating a banana
Yeah.
to planning a coffee date with a friend where you can laugh, for an
Yes.
hour, and sometimes,
Yeah.
you need different scales of things to help dissipate stress.
Yeah. And none
Um,
of these things that I mentioned cost any money other than a
oh,
therapist.
that's right. Other than getting a therapist, yeah.
Yeah.
Um, the other thing is I think people struggle with when they're on the job market for a long time is the erosion of confidence,
Ooh,
Yes.
right? Because you can start with a really strong sense of who you are, what you want, what you think you have to offer. And I think the longer a job search goes on fruitlessly,
Yeah.
especially it's happening to a lot of people with not even getting interviews,
Yeah.
um, it can really erode the confidence.
Yes.
Um,
Yes.
do you have any suggestions that we can? I'm a up and coming therapist, but that we
Yeah.
can give our clients to get them
Yeah.
refocus back on what they
Yeah.
know they possess within themselves.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
that's a really good point because that's realistic and that does happen. As a therapist, again, I allow people to process it all and be able to
Yeah.
talk about it. And we do name it. And then we
Yeah.
go into, well, first of all, when we name those feelings, like the feelings technically should only last till 90 seconds, right? So
Mhm.
when we're able to process them, those feelings should shift. Right. So what happens when we lose our confidence and we're feeling more insecure and when we have all this doubt? And then I go into looking at, well, what stories are you telling yourself that are keeping those feelings alive?
Yeah.
And do a little bit of motivational interviewing, like, well, what's helpful about that and what's not helpful?
Yeah.
And then you get to look at your list and then you get to choose, then empower them, right, with mindfulness. Well, you get to choose, like, what do you want to focus on? Where do you
Yeah.
want to shift your attention and your focus on? And that is what we do have control of.
That's
That's our agency. And that is practicing mindfulness. And then again, empower them. Well, you have access to all the wisdom of your body. Go back. We got to go back and return to ourselves.
mm,
Return to the breath,
mhm.
return to regulating the nervous system, return to being able to choose and pick what we want to focus on.
Yeah.
That will amplify, and that's where we have a choice. So if we kind of get stuck with feeling with low confidence or insecure, that will amplify. So then I have to help them shift and pivot and focus on something else that could be better for them.
Yeah.
I love that. There's so much isolation too,
That's
right? Because you
mm,
get in your head, those stories just kind of,
Yes.
it just keeps growing, and it's like becomes this ugly, monster of a feeling. And when you stay there, and just the importance of also just reaching out and sharing, like, this is really tough. Oh yeah, I'm in it too. And how
mhm.
important it is to connect with other people, whether
Yeah.
it's, family, friends, and just, being really vulnerable and sharing, I'm going through this, or this has just been really,
Yeah.
really hard, and ask for what you need. I think, it's hard to even reach out and share, because also externally there's this perception of, oh, I gotta, gotta look like I got it together, or
Mm,
everything's fine,
Yeah.
let's hope that the interview goes well. It's this, again, back to this battle, right? But I think what I'm also hearing and learning is the more we share with each other and have real conversations, you feel less alone, number one, and also two, we might be able to help each other in different ways.
Mhm.
Yeah,
I
great
agree.
reminders.
Yeah.
And as we're in the last 10 minutes, so I kind of want to talk a little bit about your book and what inspired you to do it. So can you just talk a little bit about your book and what kind of inspired you to make this book?
Yay.
Beautiful cover, by the way. I just love this so
Thank
much.
you. It all fell into place naturally. It was okay. So remember that job that I got? I ended up taking it just
Mm.
because I think it's within our culture. I was feeling guilty of being a stay-at-home mom, even though I was watching my 2-year-old. Anyway, I decided to take the job, even though I had my business and I had my caseload. But I was working at a high school, and I was shocked to see all the students that were struggling. And I don't know if you know, but in terms of like the high school dynamic, people are very they're working hard. They're being pulled in so many different directions. There's so many students compared to the staff.
Mm.
And so I was inspired, like, oh my goodness, I think I need to write something to help students that want to find the information that they didn't have for whatever reason and help them have options and help them perhaps figure out why would it be worth it for them to graduate high school and know the different options. Not everybody is, they don't, some people don't want to go to college, and that's okay. But right, like, what are the other options then? And ultimately, I do believe that all of us deserve abundance. And if we can get into that mindset, like, oh, how can I get a job that can pay me with the lifestyle that I want to live? And I just want to encourage people that it's possible. It's going to take a little creativity, a little bit of intention and consistency, but we can all do that. So that is why I was inspired to write that book.
And I love how you structured it too, as far as the almost like a checklist, helpful tips at different stages, and the things that maybe we don't think about, right? Other considerations, and even, you talk about getting plans and the extra support in high school and even into college, and so in our culture, I think sometimes we just don't know what we don't know if we haven't navigated some of these things before. It doesn't matter in and outside of our culture, right? If you just don't have that exposure. But
Yeah.
I love that how practical this is, and those specific experiences and tips, and how you've weaved your own personal story in this too. So that was
Yeah.
really helpful. Thank you for
Yeah.
that.
Mhm.
Yeah, thank you. I decided to be vulnerable as a way to instill hope for people that if I can do it, you can do it too. And I'll definitely be part of your team, cheering you on, being a champion for you to continue for growth and development.
Thank you, Lilian. We're in the last 5 minutes. We're gonna be moving on to rapid fire questions. So yeah, don't overthink, just give us your immediate instinct. You're an author. What is a book that changed how you think about something?
Mm.
Okay, so the book that comes to mind is The War of Art
Hmm.
by Pressfield. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that, but
Read it.
I happened to meet the father of my favorite football player, which is George Kittle. Coach Kittle. I told him how I wanted to work with athletes, and he gave me this list of books, and that was one of them. I
Hmm.
love that book because it gave me permission to make time for being creative and not really necessarily attached to the outcome. So I would just start writing, and I was like, a ver qué pasa, let's see what would come up. And little by little, it came up to be a book. So it actually inspired me to write my book.
Mm.
That's a great one to reread too. I've read it a few
E-
times. It's a quick read and so helpful. I
It's
get something new every time.
Yes, the way it's written is like these random statements that's telling you to go ahead, just start, just do it. I loved it.
My second question is favorite place you've traveled so far?
I would say I have traveled a lot. I love Spain, the northern part of Spain. People are very friendly, very welcoming. I love the fact that they take their siesta, so they're practicing like self-care.
Mhm.
Um, I love having dinner at 10 o'clock at night and it was still a little sunny. So
Hmm.
I've had wonderful time traveling there.
Mhm.
And then Christina, did you have anything to say?
No, sorry, my hand got raised
No
inadvertently.
worries. And then my third question is favorite way to unwind after a long week.
Ooh, yeah, I have my little mental health tool bag. So for sure, I do wake up a little bit early and I do my favorite guided meditation. But I've been doing meditation since I think 2010-ish.
Mm,
So I do have the Insight Timer app. So all the meditations are free. And I love the one that's in Sanskrit. So it's in a language I don't understand.
mm,
And I love the melody, the tone, oh, just the cadence. It puts me to sleep actually. But in the morning, yes, sometimes it does put me to sleep. But it also kind of I'm able to kind of clear again my cue in the morning. I do that every day, almost every day. I move my body. So I used to be a runner. I don't run marathons anymore, but I do run, work out for my mental health because I'm just a better person. I'm a better mom. I'm a better partner. I'm almost like if I don't work out, I'm like that person before they have their coffee. Not that cute. So I like, let me work out so I can start smiling. I can start feeling good. Coffee, I love coffee too. And I love going to different coffee shops if I have time. And I walk. I love to walk after dinner. So those are my go-to. And if I need a little bit extra, I definitely do more of the longer meditations, or I'll do some sort of journaling or watching my favorite movies,
mm,
which, I've done a lot, but those are my go-tos.
mhm.
Okay. You mentioned you're a coffee lover, so if you could have coffee with anyone living or not, who would it be?
Ooh, decisions. I think Frida Kahlo. I have so many questions for her, and she is a symbol for power,
Mm.
just as a woman in her time. So I would be curious to know, like, what did she do that got her through those difficult, hard times,
Mm.
and her art. She created a lot of art. Did she ever think she was going to be as empowering as she is?
I really hope
Yeah.
that that's a huge cup of coffee because we all have questions. Get through it slowly. We want answers.
Yes.
Great one.
And and then my final question is, what is one Spanish song that instantly puts you in a good mood?
Oh, I would say Selena, Beady Beady Bum Bum.
Mm.
It's just you can't be upset when you're listening to that or singing or dancing to that.
Right. You have options. Love it.
Yes.
All right. And that would wrap up the rapid fire questions. Thank you so much, Lilian. Thank you everyone for joining. And before we go, where could people check out your book?
It's currently on Amazon. I'm gonna translate it in Spanish soon next month, and then I will be able to have it on Ingram, so I'll be able to order some in advance and have it available, hopefully in bookstores and libraries.
Amazing. Thank you so
Yeah.
much. Thank you for the
Thank
helpful
you.
tips.
Thank you.
And
Oh.
we'll be sharing, you mentioned some resources. So we'll share those PDFs with everyone that joined here today. And also, if you have the link to that amazing meditation you mentioned earlier, you mentioned Insight Timer,
Oh, yeah.
would love to check it out. It's so fun to
Okay.
explore new ones. And then we can also send a copy or a link to the book as well.
Okay, yeah, wonderful. I'll share that with all of you, so I'm happy to share.
Thank you.
So
Thank you
much,
so much, Lilian.
everyone. Thanks, Lillian.
Thanks,
Okay,
everyone.
you're welcome. Bye.